She walked into a send-off she didn't ask for, accepted keys to a truck she hadn't expected, and drove away from one of the most popular YouTube channels in the off-road world without ever really explaining why. That was late July 2023. Lizzy Stout, the young woman who had become one of the most recognized faces on Matt's off-road recovery, was gone, and the channel that had helped turn her into an internet personality posted a farewell video titled, "I never expected this, neither did the audience." For 3 years, Lizzy had been the kind of crew member who made the channel feel like more than just a recovery operation. She could weld, she could work the winches, she knew ropes, recoveries, and the kind of physical problem-solving that most people only watch from a distance. And she wore a rodeo belt buckle on the job, one she had actually earned in competition, not bought at a Western store. That detail alone told you something about who she was before anyone ever pointed a camera at her. But what most people watching Matt's videos didn't fully understand was the connection that actually brought Lizzy into that shop in 2020. It wasn't a job posting. It wasn't a talent search. It went back decades, to 2 men growing up together in southern Utah, starting a business together, and raising families in the same small community. The bond that placed Lizzy on that channel ran a lot deeper than most viewers ever knew. And that's where the real story begins. Not in 2023, when she left. Not in 2020, when she started. But long before either of those moments, in a roofing company, a southern Utah town, and a friendship that eventually put one man's daughter in front of more than 1.5 million people. Matt Wetzel spent 12 years in the roofing business before he ever pulled a stuck vehicle out of Utah sand. 10 of those years he worked for someone else. The final 2, he ran a company he co-founded with a man named Adam Stout, a roofing operation called Skyline Roofing, based in Hurricane, Utah. That name matters because the Stout family is the thread that runs through this entire story. Stuart Stout, Lizzy's father, grew up alongside Matt Wetzel in southern Utah. They attended the same school. They built a friendship that crossed into their professional lives and then back out again. When Matt eventually sold his stake in Skyline Roofing in 2009 and pivoted into towing, he didn't lose that connection. He simply moved it into a different chapter of his life. What makes this unusual is the scale of the friendship. Matt has described Lizzy as practically family, not loosely, the way people sometimes exaggerate close friendships, but in a way that held up on camera. He treated her as he would treat a daughter. The audience picked up on it. For a long time, new viewers watching the channel assumed Lizzy was literally Matt's daughter because the dynamic was that consistent and that natural. Lizzy eventually addressed it herself, posting a photo on Instagram of herself standing between Stuart and Matt, with captions she added above their heads, "My dad above Stuart, and not my dad above Matt." She tagged it with the phrase, "Dads are the best," making clear that she considered both men to be central figures in her life, just in different ways. She grew up in Hurricane, Utah, the same town where Winder Towing operates. She knew this world before she ever worked in it. The desert landscapes, the recovery operations, the community built around off-road terrain near Zion National Park. None of that was new to her when she walked into the shop in 2020. Which raises an obvious question. If Lizzy had that background, those skills, and those connections, why did it take until 2020 for her to join the channel? And what was actually changing in her life at that point that made it the right moment? When Lizzy came on at Winder Towing in 2020, Matt's off-road recovery was less than 2 years old. The channel had launched on March 28, 2019, and was still in the early stages of building the audience that would eventually surpass 1.7 million subscribers and accumulate hundreds of millions of views. She joined as a mechanic and technical advisor, not as a presenter, not as a personality. Her job was to work. She understood towing. She understood repairs. When the crew needed guidance on technical matters, Lizzy was the person they turned to. She could also operate the recovery vehicles and handle the rigging work that gets vehicles out of impossible positions. These aren't skills you develop watching videos. She brought them with her, but what nobody fully anticipated was how she would translate on camera. In a world where YouTube channels often rely on scripted moments and manufactured drama, Lizzy came across as entirely unforced. She was calm when things got complicated. She was capable without needing to prove it, and the audience responded. There is one specific moment that Matt himself has cited when talking about what makes his channel work. He presented it at Vid Summit, a conference for professional video creators, and described what he called the nacho moment. During a drive to a job near Vail, the crew stopped at a gas station. Lizzy got nachos. They talked about it briefly on camera. 7 to 12 seconds, maybe. And then something unusual happened. Audience retention went up. On most YouTube videos, retention drops as the video gets longer. People leave. That's the standard pattern. But in that video, after the nacho moment, people stayed. Days after the video launched, audience retention was still sitting at 82%. Matt noted that most YouTubers start celebrating when retention hits 46%. The nacho moment was not rehearsed. It wasn't edited into place. It worked because Lizzy was simply being herself, and viewers found that compelling enough to keep watching. That authenticity became part of what the channel was, and it made her eventual departure much harder to explain. Here is what made Lizzy's time on Matt's off-road recovery genuinely interesting to pay attention to, and what, in hindsight, explained exactly where things were heading. The job fit her in some ways, and didn't in others. She was good at the mechanical work. She was reliable. She was well-liked. But the things she returned to on her own time, the things she posted about when she wasn't filming, told a different story about where her real passion lived. Rodeo, horses, open land. She competed in rodeo events and kept the belt buckle she earned in them on her hip at the shop. She talked about horse riding. She posted images from outdoor life that had nothing to do with tow trucks or recovery vehicles. She was a member of the Washington County Farm Bureau, an organization for people engaged in agriculture, not vehicle fabrication. None of this was hidden. Fans who followed her closely on social media saw it consistently. But for the broader audience watching Matt's channel, Lizzy existed in the context of the shop. That was the frame through which most people understood her. And that frame didn't include the full picture. The full picture was someone who had grown up in ranch country, loved animals, competed in rodeo, and came from a family with deep roots in southern Utah's agricultural and outdoor communities. The welding skills were real. The mechanical knowledge was genuine. But the shop was never going to be her permanent destination. What nobody knew in 2021 or 2022 was that the timeline was already tightening, and the event that would accelerate everything happened in the summer of 2022, before most viewers had any reason to suspect she was thinking about leaving. In the summer of 2022, news spread that Lizzy had become engaged to a man named Clancy Ballard. On September 30, 2022, they were married at Cedar City Temple in Utah. The reception was held in Hurricane, the same town where she worked, where she grew up, where the Stout and Wetzel families had been connected for generations. Clancy was, by confirmed accounts, an LDS member and an avid horse rider, someone whose interests aligned closely with Lizzy's own. He was not a prominent figure in her public life. He appeared briefly in a few videos on the channel, and in at least some of those appearances his face was blurred to protect his privacy. He was not looking for the audience. Neither, it turned out, was Lizzy, at least not permanently. After the wedding, her life began to reorganize around new priorities. Her husband's family had a ranch in Kane County, Utah. Kane County sits to the east of Hurricane, deeper into the canyon country of southern Utah. It is rural, removed from the kind of traffic that flows through Hurricane near Zion National Park, and precisely the kind of place where someone serious about ranching would choose to put down roots. By early 2023, Lizzy told the team she was shifting to part-time. She wanted to spend more time with her husband. She wanted to help on the ranch. The plan she described publicly included the possibility of eventually buying some of that land themselves, building something permanent in Kane County, rather than simply working on someone else's property. This was not a sudden announcement driven by conflict or discontent. It was a deliberate transition that she had been building toward for months. The job at Winder Towing had given her skills, community, and a platform she hadn't expected. But the platform was never the point for her. The ranch was. What viewers would only understand later was that Matt had known this was coming long before the farewell video appeared on the channel. Nisi aboam, nis bonkles, dal and humbagun, the trandis, shurt this one. And it became one of the more talked about episodes the channel had produced that year. Not because of drama, not because something had gone wrong, but because the audience had not seen it coming, even though many of the signals had been there. In the video, Lizzy confirmed what she had been saying privately for months. She was leaving Hurricane. She was moving to another part of Utah, closer to the ranch in Kane County, to pursue the life she had been working toward. Horses, cattle, open land. That was where she was going, and she said so clearly. Matt's send-off to her was not a cake and a handshake. He gave her a truck, specifically, a black 12th generation Ford F-150 FX4. That detail is worth pausing on. Lizzy had been driving a black Ford Fusion. Her stated dream vehicle was a green Ford Raptor. What she received was a black F-150 FX4, not the exact color she'd hoped for, but a capable heavy-duty truck suited for the kind of off-road ranch work she was walking into. It was a practical gift and a meaningful one. The kind of thing you give someone you genuinely want to succeed in the next chapter. She left on good terms. Multiple sources confirmed that the departure involved no conflict, no firing, no falling out. She had been a loyal crew member. Matt had been, in every documented sense, a mentor figure and a second father. The two families had been connected for decades before the cameras arrived and would remain connected after they moved on. But one thing happened after her departure that the audience noticed. Lizzy's social media, which had been active during her years on the channel, went largely quiet. She had confirmed, during the farewell, that she would return to the show if the situation called for it. As of the time this was written, she has not reappeared in any Matt's off-road recovery videos. That silence tells its own kind of story. It would be easy to read Lizzy's social media quiet as something it probably isn't, as a sign of conflict, distance, or a version of the story that hasn't been told publicly. But that reading doesn't match what is confirmed. The more straightforward explanation is the one she gave herself. She left to build a ranch life, and that kind of life doesn't generate the same digital footprint as working on a YouTube channel. Ranching is physical, daily, unglamorous work that happens far from cameras. If you are serious about it, and every indication is that Lizzy was, you are not spending your afternoons posting content. You are working. Her Instagram account, under the handle Lizzy25_, had accumulated around 24,000 followers by the time most people checked it post-departure. That's a smaller number than her winder-towing audience would suggest, which itself is a signal that she had never been primarily chasing a platform. The channel gave her visibility, but she used it on her own terms and pulled back from it on her own terms. What Lizzy's story actually illustrates is something that rarely gets discussed when YouTube channels celebrate their crews. The people who appear on those channels have lives that extend well beyond the camera's edge. Lizzy arrived at Matt's off-road recovery as a fully formed person with specific skills, a specific background, and a specific set of values shaped by rodeo competitions, agricultural community membership, and a family whose roots ran generations deep in southern Utah. The channel gave her a new skill set and a national audience, but it could not replace what she actually wanted. She had made that clear all along, for anyone watching closely enough. The rodeo buckle worn on camera, the Farm Bureau membership, the horses, the excitement, documented on social media around ranch life. Those weren't casual interests. They were the actual story running underneath the one the channel was telling. Bilthidi. The friendship between the Wetzel and Stout families continues. Matt's off-road recovery has kept moving forward. The channel has continued to grow, continued to produce content, and continued to feature the kind of practical, problem-solving recovery work that built its audience in the first place. The departures of individual crew members, including Lizzy, have not broken that momentum. What changed is that Lizzy is no longer part of it. She is, by everything that is confirmed, living the life she described in that farewell video. Ranch land in Kane County, Utah. Horses, cattle. Her husband, Clancy. The physical work of building something on the land rather than recovering vehicles from it. Matt's own words at Vid Summit captured something true about her time on the channel, that she brought a quality that couldn't be manufactured. The nacho moment, the 82% retention, the audience connection. That wasn't strategy. It was just Lizzy being herself on camera, and viewers recognizing something real when they saw it. The harder thing to fully account for is what that kind of visibility does to a person who never sought it. Lizzy arrived at Winder Towing in 2020 because her father's best friend ran the company, and she had the skills to contribute. She became a recognizable presence on a channel with over 1.5 million subscribers without ever claiming that as a goal. And she walked away from it, cleanly, on good terms, with a truck she hadn't asked for, and a thank you that was years in the making, to go do something that mattered more to her personally. That is not a story about failure or departure. It is a story about a person who understood what she wanted, waited until she had built the foundation to pursue it, and then went. Lizzy Stout chose the ranch over the camera, and by every account, she has no regrets about that choice. The real question is whether, looking at how she handled all of it, the visibility, the platform, the send-off, the transition, you think she had it figured out all along. Because the evidence suggests she did. What would you have done in her position? Stayed for the audience that was there? Or left for the life you had been building towards since long before the cameras arrived?